That was quick. And we'll turn it over to Michael.
Oops, I was on mute. That
It's
might help.
okay. I was scanning through the participants to see if you were still here.
Can you guys see my screen? Good. Okay. So I'm going to
Uh,
talk. Huh?
Michael, I think you'll have to share your, there we go.
You can see it. Okay. Yeah. So basically, I'm here to talk about a little bit about best practices around lead gen, automation, uh, when and why to hire SDRs, why you hire lead gen folks or lead gen companies. I've been doing this for about 25 years, just sales, software sales, and so forth. There's basically two ways that you can go about this. You can hire an SDR team. I see a lot of companies do it. I've been a part of them or leading them or being one of the recipients of their leads, and they're good. It's great. They're usually people just out of school, getting their first job. So it's not a bad deal. But the problem is, not many folks want to be a lead gen person or SDR or BDR their whole life. So that means you're going to have to backfill. That means that you're going to either have to replace them or promote them. Not a bad way to build a farm team, but there's a lot of turnover that way, and there's a lot of money being tested out. What's working, what's not. I'm not saying don't have them. I'm just saying there's a lot of folks that do it that way, and it's millions of dollars. Secondly, there's basically external approach where you hire companies that look like mine, but they're kind of doing the same thing. They're hiring a bunch of people that just started their career and they're trying to get lead gen. It's really much more of a job where you're probably gonna burn out in the first 6 to 12 months, or want to be an AE. So what I look at, there's ways to basically take this approach and go, can I hire someone, some company, some person, there's a lot of fractional people in all these different approaches that does a lead gen. And so my background is 25 years of selling. I was in the Air Force for 12 years. I took a couple of companies from 200,000 to $2.33 million within 18 months. The whole idea is to build a repeatable and scalable approach so that your bots and your automations doing the tactical parts, your SDRs, BDRs, AEs, VPs of sales are doing the strategy. They're being prescriptive and they're being strategic. So they're acting like like a detective. What's going on here? And they're going, okay, I figure out what's going on here. Let me prescribe some sort of medicine for us. That's the best use of someone's time that you're paying 50, 60, 80, 100,000 a year for. So there's basically very decent amount of tips that I can give you here, and it's not meant to be a sales pitch. I will go into what I do after this, and it's meant to be more, hey, if you guys want more information from me, great. But the current state of many startups and SaaS companies is that the CEO, the VP of sales, the chief revenue officer, they're the sales guy, the BDR. That's a lot of the startups. Everybody's doing everything. The best thing you can look at is like you spend more time closing and selling versus hunting. Hunting is very expensive. Your Zoom info is pretty expensive if you look at that. And a lot of these databases that you look at, like a Zoom info, you will have to purge all your information once you leave. And I don't want to be stuck with a situation where I'm renting the data. That's a little trick that they kind of do. So you need to really understand like how much time is very spent in closing versus hunting. If you look at Salesforce.com, they have really sophisticated salespeople, and they were doing all that work A, B, and C, and they'll be going like this, right? Because they'd be feeding themselves. So they actually kind of developed this whole let's build a sales development role and feed the sellers. So their pipe started going like this, right? It kept on getting fed instead of back in the old day where we had to hunt, close, strategically go after everything. Now you can have maybe 10 or 20 accounts you do account-based marketing on. The rest of it's, either going to be fed by a lead gen person or a lead gen bot approach. And my whole thing is lead gen automation could be done very well without having to burn someone's brain out, especially making 100 calls a day or something. So if you have your sales team, definitely have them focus in on their top 20 whales, 20 major accounts, and then go, okay, that's tier 1. Tier 2 is, let's go after all these other ones that'd be nice ones to close, that we know that it's going to take maybe a shorter time to close these mid-sized ones, but we can get them and feed us and make sure we have a runway at the company and work on some of these larger deals as well. When I worked at a lot of these different companies, I saw a lot of folks using HubSpot in their main email addresses, domains, to do outreach. They're like, I have HubSpot, I'm sending out emails, I'm getting meetings, everything's great. But bounce rates, sendability, deliverability, verified data getting old every couple of months. You cannot use your email address on any platform to do cold outreach, especially with Gmail and Yahoo also limiting how many emails you send out. I think they started doing it this month or next month. They have a new max of 5,000 a day from a domain. So that's obviously more of a major user there. But even if you didn't have that, I've been through all the mistakes. Like, I was sending out emails from HubSpot through my main domain, and it was not a good. All the emails started going to spam. The domain, the emails would actually get shut down by Gmail or Office 365. You got to come up with a way of sending out the emails. That's subdomains. That's using an email engineer, understanding what DKIM, DMARC, SPF, MX records are. It's not a tier 1 or level 1 IT person that knows this stuff. You know, like for me, I hired an email engineer that works at Coke that understands how do you deliver and how do you make sure that you don't get on the block stage. So it's very important there. It's kind of the same thing on LinkedIn now. LinkedIn has got very tight on spam and sending out messages or sending out too many invites. They could do 200 invites a week now. But the biggest thing is you can look at InMails. That's great. That's part of Sales Navigator, but you could actually send free messages on LinkedIn if you join groups. There's a little trick where you go in any group on LinkedIn. There's 100 groups you can join, and you can basically click on message, and you can send them a message. That's big, because if you know that they're utterly interested in what you're talking about, and they're in a group, and you can send them a message, that's a big deal. So that's one of the ways that I do it, but I automate that. So that's kind of a big, interesting tool that I use is LinkedIn automation around groups, InMails, and basically drive them to some sort of roundtable, which is, you know, kind of what we're doing here today. Let's educate, let's network, let's refer business. So I take my approach is how you write things is how you should talk to people. Too many people sell in emails and LinkedIn. This is not when you start selling. This is when you start saying, you know what? I want to invite you to Midday Connect. We're going to talk about networking, interesting ideas, tips and tricks, and everybody's going to engage. By the way, we raise money, or I do lead gen, or I did this, right? So you give to get. So always use some sort of things that you're giving to somebody. You never walk up to someone on email with what you send on email and LinkedIn and say, hey, my name is Michael Falato. I do lead generation. It's like, you don't even know the person. Stop throwing up just marketing material. Well, who cares? So what? Why are you telling me this? How does this help save my job or make my company look good or me look good? And who else is doing it? That's what you should be thinking every time you send a message, not about what features and functions you have at your company. Now you can do all this great stuff, but you got to understand the data. Everything now is on analytics, AI, ML. So understand what's working, what's not, what subject lines work, what titles are working. Don't keep on doing the same thing over and over for months and go, you know, this ain't working. Email, LinkedIn, and your outreach, you have to do it or someone else has to do it. You got to learn fast what's working and what's not. I guess what the last thing I would talk about is tool sets. You know, you're using HubSpot, Salesforce. Do they integrate with each other? Do they talk to each other? Are you Are you making sure that you read the contracts of what you can and can't use and what's accepted? I use ChatGPT and Bard to help write content. I mean, people say, "Hey, do you help write the message?" I go, "Yeah, I know how to write it, but I also use AI as well because I'm not a copywriter." Um, if you look at what it costs to hire an SDR, it's pretty much the same amount of money to hire someone like myself or anyone else. I mean, it's a good $5K a month for anybody across the country for someone that's starting out their first sales job, which is a lead gen person. So I look at it, hey, you can hire that, maybe not hire 5, maybe hire 2 and say, you know what, Michael, or some sort of automation tool can do another 3 to 4x where I'm not sitting there having SDRs just dial for dollars. I don't answer the phone myself because I get bombarded. So I'd rather someone book a meeting with me that's a sales qualified lead, because in my calendar or whatever I use from them to book me, there's a back question. You know, why is this timing good for us to chat? What's bringing you to full throttle? Are you the person that's basically making a decision, or is this more of a group decision? Something in there that would say, okay, this is a pretty good lead. So I'm hitting 300 to 400,000 touches, producing 10 to 20 leads per month by just making sure I get enough messages out to the right people, and I don't require commissions, bonuses, unemployment, health insurance, you know, all those different things. This is a company, TechMate, that I worked at where they were at $250,000 in revenue, and I was just talking about this in my last breakout. Their MVP was Freshworks, so they didn't have a platform, and they were very much worried about having the platform push out the text and having that great deck. It was a great story to tell that they had something that worked pretty well, but they wanted their own platform. But the whole idea here is talk about what you do, not how you do it. When you're trying to raise money and you're trying to get revenue, revenue is king. That's going to get cheaper money when you raise money. So tell a story, be charismatic. Don't worry about just being that very technical person that wants to build the best thing. That will come when you raise money. But if you raise money at a very expensive level because you haven't had a proven track record that's a repeatable and scalable revenue, you're gonna kick yourself. So you could work on more than one thing at a time. And if you have to service your clients until the platform does everything you want to do, that's okay. Just make sure you over deliver and make people happy, because that's momentum. This is kind of how I charge. If you guys ever wanted to work with me, we can always go over that in spades. I also just do LinkedIn automation as well, and just roundtables, which is kind of like what we do here at this breakout. There's a cheat sheet in this platform that I have that, you know, using ChatGPT in the right way is important. Asking the right questions. So you got to think about, like, I did one for TechMate. Write me why use TechMate in a Star Wars theme approach. So a far galaxy, you know, right? Their ideal customer profile is an VP of IT. So you think like the people reading this, like, what's going to get them to like engage? And then, you know, great that I thought of this, but if the stats ain't there, you know, you got to look at what's working and what's not, and take on and take off those things. So I think that's pretty much it. I'd like to open this up to questions, because I don't like doing slides too much, to be honest with you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so let's open it up for questions. I think there were some items in the chat about LinkedIn groups. If anyone wants to come off mute and ask your question, or just put it in the chat.
Yeah, I asked that question about the premium account. Is that required for messaging into groups?
No, but filtering is required to make it really targeted. And it's not, I would never buy premium. I think premium's now sales Navigator Core. Premium, like I thought it was it when I was 4 years ago, but you got to have the filtering to actually go after the right people. And also, I mean, I'll kind of share my screen here because this might be a really good way to kind of show tips and tricks.
I've had premium for several years, and I'm thinking, why am I paying all this money and I'm not really seeing a benefit? So
yeah, well, you'll see a benefit in using Navigator, because premium is not really, it's not worth anything in
to
my
use
book.
Navigator instead of setting up a premium account.
Yeah, I'll move to that. Let me share my screen here. So Navigator, but the cool thing here is obviously you got to join groups. The main thing is you got to join groups by going to your regular sales. Now, so you just say, I'm looking for sales groups. So just type in sales. See if this works here. Now just type in groups, and then you can see that you could join up to 100 groups. You can see sales D, there's 434,000 people. Guess what? Those are salespeople looking to engage in network. Why wouldn't I want to go to them? Or events is another good one, right? They're joining an event. I scrape that list and I start sending them messages. But if you just have premium, or you just have regular sales, LinkedIn, this is how I can look. It's horrible. I don't want to send the people to some student in China. I mean, I'm not nothing against China, but I'm not. That's not my target market, nor the level I want to go after. But if I go here and say, give me Sales Navigator, and I want to go, I always go here for its leads filters, and then I say, let me look at the group, and then I can type in sales Steve. And now I can do a very specific search on that group. And now you can see here, I could send a message to anybody on here. But this is how I would have to do it, each one. I'm not doing that. I mean, I hired my kids to do this 4 years ago. And guess what? They got laid off because I found bots and automation. So sorry, kids, but there's a much faster way of doing this. And I know it's getting done. And the way the platform I use basically looks like it's a human behavior. So it's actually typing out the message and scrolling up and down, clicking on things. So it doesn't make LinkedIn think you're using a bot. But if I could hit this and go, also, they're interested in something about lead gen. I mean, now I'm getting down to the nitty gritty. Now it's 51,000. Now I can say, give me salespeople. Just give me people in North America, people and company. And now, I got 15,000 people I can go after. So if you don't have Sales Navigator, not that I'm making money off of selling Sales Navigator, but if you don't have Sales Navigator and you're trying to sell, I question how you're going to do this right. So it's definitely a good tool, but doing this manually, maybe for your top 20 accounts, but anything after that, it's like, listen, I just want to get a meeting, and the meeting shouldn't take me 3 days of the week just sending out a very specific message, because no one knows if you're spending a half an hour or 5 seconds. The whole idea should be, hey, love your profile, or see that you're in the same industry as me. I just wanted to grab a virtual cup of coffee. Are you free? Make it as nonchalant and lackadaisical as much as you can, so it doesn't sound like you want to throw up on them with your sales approach. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. I wish
no
I had my
worries.
sales manager with me on this.
Yeah, you can set
start
up
inviting him to these meetings.
Yeah, you can set up a time with me, and I'll put my information in chat here so you can see it.
Okay.
But there's my calendar, my videos, I have my other videos from Midday Connect on my links here. But another thing that's really cool about LinkedIn, and it was cooler before, was events. I mean, if you go to an event and you know they're talking about AI, right? So if I type in like this, say again, sales, instead of looking at groups, I'm looking at events. Is there any events in here? Okay, here we go. Here, this guy, I think this is the one that has like 32,000 people. I mean, I don't know how, I want to find out how they're doing this, because that's one thing, but I think they're just putting it up every week, inviting the same people. But the problem I have with this one is this, that it's a lot of people I don't want to talk to. Now, I can't filter this really well. That's the thing that sucks about events. If you look here, these filters that come with your basic LinkedIn is not narrow enough. So that's where Sales Navigator does it better. So usually groups is the best way of sending specific messages one-to-one, and getting meetings. That's the best way I've found. Any other questions?
Levi, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. And obviously, Michael, I know we spoke last week too about some of this stuff, and I know that I'd love to set up a time with obviously Kyle, our CEO, and you. But you're obviously, these are how you're going and getting those leads, and you're, going on to the LinkedIn groups as well as the, email. But what leads are you targeting when you're sending those emails? Where are they coming from?
We basically set up a subdomain. So which means, like, for me, it's mail.fullthrottleFalato.com. Or I set up a mail like fullthrottleFalato.us and don't even use my domain, but it looks like my domain.
Yeah.
I still use a subdomain on that new domain because I don't want to burn it. So you want to make sure you have 4 to 5 domains, 4 to 5 email addresses, and you're cycling them. And then you also set up the DKIM, the DMARC, the SPF, the MX records. And you have an email engineer that knows how to do that. And that's where it makes me very unique, is that there's not a lot of people that are very good at doing that. And my guy works at Coke. So I trust him. He sets up not just my stuff, but a lot of people's stuff. So
that makes sense. So that's how you're not getting burned.
Yeah, warm up the subdomain. Make sure it doesn't get burned. It's kind of like, for me, my deliverables are set up the email automation, set up the LinkedIn. The LinkedIn, if you don't do it right, a lot of people will make a new domain, new LinkedIn profile. It's going to get shut down within hours. They have AI to determine what you're doing, how you're doing it. I was sending out 500 invites a day on mine. Invites. You can only do 200 a week now, but I could send up 400 to 500 emails a day if I wanted to. I put it back down to 300. They say don't do more than 150 a day. I don't really do that for my clients because I don't want to break their LinkedIn profile. But I have 30,000 connections, so I'm in the top 1% of LinkedIn. So they don't really mess with me, knock on wood.
That makes sense. So of the people, basically, obviously you're finding those leads through the groups and such, but for emails, obviously that's how you're not getting burned. But who are you when you come into a client, how are you helping them find where those emails are? Does that make sense?
It's like a Zoom info. This is the platform that I look at. Okay, what's technology? Are they an SAP shop? Are they hiring a VP of sales? Well, if they're hiring, maybe there's some change in their business. Did they just raise money, funding? Is their HR department or sales department go, did they open a click on an email in the past? There's intent data that this platform has, signal data. So there's a whole bunch of ways where I'm getting 40-50% open rates because I know how to have sendability, deliverability. Then I know how to write the messages. And then in the messages, I'm saying, I'm not just trying to sell you something. I don't even know who you are yet. So why don't I try to get them on a roundtable? or invite them to, this event that we're doing right now, or give them something to, and then ask for something instead of going buy, leads, 10 leads for free. You're like, what do you think that makes you feel? It makes you feel like you're being sold to and it's some sort of scam, or what's the catch?
Yeah.
So it's almost like dating and lead gen. It's like, hey, how about you talk to me first? Buy me a cup of coffee. So I use virtual cup of coffee. Hey, let's just grab a virtual cup of coffee to see if there's even a fit, and then you get to know them, and then you ask them, for the business. But it's the same thing in natural life. They had a video on some sort of social channel where they were making fun of how people talk to people on LinkedIn with these messages. And they were just spewing out like, my custom thing does 3 to 5 minutes. They're like, people are like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, you would never walk up to somebody and start spewing as soon as you connect. So like, I don't like connect with someone and then throw up on them what I do. It's just more about, hey, after I open the door and I suggest that like someone that I'm opening the door for, it's like, why don't you mention something about their profile, their background, their company? Because I got the door open for you. We shouldn't do automation after we connect with them. We can and say, hey, let's grab a virtual cup of coffee. Would love to learn more about your company. That's not bad. But what if you took the time and said, let's not do a automation after the invite. You already got them to accept it. Now let's have my SDRs, AEs, or whoever's selling do a little more homework and then do that. So does that make sense, Levi?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And with your service, obviously, and what you guys do, and we've talked about it a little bit, but you're kind of helping set up all of this, set up the LinkedIn automation, the email automation, obviously those subdomains so that they're ready to go. And then just with our input and helping us, obviously grow our sales team, and then obviously leading to those, hopefully 20+ meetings a month.
Yeah, it's basically also writing the content. It's important. I think a lot of people lean on me for that, because you sell the junk I get. It's just, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They're like taking it from like the AI or chat. I'm like, no, if you didn't ask the chat GPT the right way, it's going to spew out marketing jumble. This is not a marketing. I am not doing marketing for you. I am doing a reason to book a time to chat. You don't know if they're even a good fit for you. So let's make sure the filters are set up so we pretty much think they are, but they have a lot of things like, let's get cute. Let's take AI and read your profile and say something about that profile in that message to you, either email or LinkedIn. Guess what? I have 10 things on my LinkedIn, and a lot of it's like, hey, I'm part of this group, like serial marketers or Midday Connect or some sales revenue. I see that you're the head of sales at, no, I'm not. So now you lost credibility. So the best thing is just keep it simple, use their name, maybe their company, but make sure that because they call it a snippet, that you use a snippet to get the meeting, it didn't disqualify the whole message because it wasn't perfect data.
I think that's a really good takeaway for me personally, is like putting yourself in the position of if you were face to face with this person, how would you kick off a conversation? And probably not by smacking them in the face with everything you have to sell them today. That's good.
The best thing I would actually add to. So Spencer, tell me what brought you to the roundtable today, or why'd you book me today?
Yeah.
What brought you to I love this one. What brought you to the table to book a time with me today? That's the first thing I ask once they come onto the Zoom call with me. Let them talk. They'll tell me. But if I start saying, I do Legion, I do this, I do that, or when you're at a trade show, hey, so I see you work for Xerox. What do you do for them? People want to talk about themselves. Then you can take that information and turn it into something that's of value to them.
So yeah, and I think that's maybe a separate presentation that we should dig in on, is if they're telling you right out of the gate why they set it up and it's not a fit for you, how to quickly and, politely
Pivot.
pivot,
Yeah.
or yeah, how to still send the conversation in a direction that gets you the next meeting, right?
Like I meet with people that are what do you call them? Fractional, maybe VP of marketing, right? Great people, but they can only handle 3 clients. So they get really gonna want automation for themselves. Because at 3, they're like, okay, I'm making 20,000 a month. I can only handle it. But for me, they're people that they know are I would pivot then. I go, listen, I know you already had 2 or 3 now. How about I use your LinkedIn to introduce me and I pay you a referral? So the biggest way I'm getting means right now is looking at their connections and then saying, hey, I see, Spencer, or going to you, Spencer, and say, Spencer, I know you don't need my help right now, but what if I used your LinkedIn and said, let's introduce me, and I do a campaign for you for Midday or something else. So I do like a free 30-day test for me and for you and it benefits both of us. So
Yeah.
that's a great way of like try to find a win-win, whatever you're doing in life, and don't let someone beat you up just to get their business. If they're going to be like that, they're never going to be happy. Pass on the business, in my opinion.
Let's take one last question. Come off mute or throw it in the chat.
Hey, Michael, I'm interested just real quick to hear your general opinion. So you've been doing this for a while. Would you say overall using the techniques that you mentioned where it's a little somewhat more automated and yet you're still trying to include that human aspect, has it improved measurably compared to 10, 15 years ago? These outreach and the connection building using ChatGPT, using all the methods that you've discussed?
Well, time saving, ChatGPT and Bard are incredible because I don't write that well. It just saves a lot of time just to kind of craft it and then make it yours. Automation wise, it's awesome because I used to make phone calls and I used to get Dun & Bradstreet cards given to me on my desk. I mean, I'm 53 years old, so that should tell you kind of. I was Monster Mike at monster.com. That's how far I go back in 96, but that's how we were doing sales. But I closed $1 million in a quarter back then. That's a lot of money still. There's a plus and minus. The automation has created a lot of noise too. So if you don't if you do emails manually or semi-manually or just 100 a day, you're not ever going to close enough business. You could make the most beautiful email about what they do and why you should talk to them, but numbers speak. It's a numbers game, sales always, but you got to give the right message to the right people at the right time. So it's not just, hey, just be very ABM approach and go after the top 10 and send emails. If you're going to do ABM, you better do look at their 8 Qs, 10 Qs, their quarterly reports, you better go to trade shows. There's a lot of things you do to get in front of them. And that's really a big strategy. But no matter what you do, you still have to go past your top 20 and say, I can't live off this today because it's going to take 6 months maybe to go after these larger accounts. So how do I do tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 approach? And the bot should be doing the semi custom stuff. Anything that's really custom, send somebody a FedEx box of something and say, hey, here's a bottle of Jack. Let's get drunk and talk. I don't know, go meet. Like what I do is I tell people, hey, I'm going to be at NetCon 2.0 in Vegas in June. Let's get together, right? I don't know if they're going. I don't know if I'm going, right? If I got 5 meetings, I say, hey, listen, I couldn't make it last minute. Can we do a Zoom call instead? They're not going to go no. If they did say no, they're going to be like, that's not a good lead because they don't care. They were more just wanting to grab a bite to eat and talk. So whatever event you're looking at, whether you're using the bots or not, also a good tip. Say, hey, I'm going to be at this conference. Would love to get together. If you get 5 to 10 meetings, you might want to go there no matter what. Even if it's on your dime, because it's a great way of use anchors to grab them. here's a roundtable, here's a event, here's something else that's going on. Give them some reason to care. Attack here and attack here. If you get those two things, you're gonna resonate with people. But too many people throw marketing. We help 20% better and 100% of this percentages and save $100. That's man, you start feeling like you're in an infomercial and you start seeing all these emails like that.
This has
Yeah,
been
thank you.
great.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going off today, huh?
You got your coffee. You're full
Yeah.
throttle.
Full throttle or what I say, full throttle caffeine.
There we go. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah,
This has
no
been
worries.
great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you've got your contact info in the chat there if people want to
Yeah.
grab them before they drop off. And then you'll see this recording on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And look forward to having you all back here next Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care, everybody.
How do you copy from the chat? Anybody? Maybe it's too late.